Hey, how's it going, everybody? Lawler here, your resident sick boy. We're going on like day 4 or 5 of being sick. It's been pretty wild. Today's Q&A video is going to go pretty quick just because I'm still under the weather. My days consist of 3 food groups of vitamin C, soup, and Dayquil. So that's where I'm kind of at right now. I've got an event in Atlanta that I'm trying to get better by next weekend. So I'm trying to just rest up and everything. Between sleeping on the couch and like watching RLCS, I haven't really done a whole lot. So while I'm waiting for the next match between Space Station and V1 to start, I figured I'd record a Q&A video for you guys now that my throat is starting to... Every time I swallow, it doesn't hurt for the first time in like 4 days. So feeling pretty happy about that. We've got questions from the community that we're going to be fielding. If you guys would like to be part of these conversations, easy way to do it. As always, let me know in the comments down below things you'd like me to discuss or talk about, suggestions for future videos, all that kind of stuff down there as well, which you guys always have tons of suggestions, which I appreciate. We're somewhere around doing this for a year. So first question is going to be from Shadow Razor that says, on the subject of minor and major teams, do you think they'll remove some auto quals from major regions, or do you think they'll continue to change the system with qualifying entirely, or do you think they'll add more spots at LAN? I don't think LAN spots are going to change. I think they're going to continue to keep it 16 and keep it exclusive as they should. But the thing that I will see that differs is definitely the qualification spot allocation. Right now, we are in our first time ever seeing this new circuit-based format on an international level, where teams and players from all over are allowed to sign up and play in their respective regions, with regions like Africa and the MENA areas and stuff like that, which was not the case in the past. So it is going to take some data and some sample size to be able to make those adjustments. And if teams keep performing the way that they do in international competition, which really sucks that Sandrock did not get to go and compete in winter, because it would give us more information about how good as a region they are. But if those regions continue to keep breaching into the top 6, then there is conversation to allocate less North America and EU teams and more SAM, OCE, MENA, etc., as well as the ability to give SSA bids into more than just the wild card and give them spots at the major. So it is something that is always under a microscope. It is stuff that they're always trying to make adjustments on to make sure that they do make those right changes. But 100%, they are going to make adjustments based upon results, and that'll be an ever evolving thing. It is not something that is going to just stop any time. They need to continue to adjust and make adjustments based upon the results of how the ecosystem of Rocket League is performing. And that applies to more than just qualification spots. That applies to formats and everything else as well. Next question comes from Stone Slash that says, if you get an offer to cast at the major, would you accept it or would you turn it down? This is a conversation that for some reason people ask me quite a bit. Even though I am no longer with RLCS, I am still a esports commentator as my like primary profession. In the past like 6 months, I've casted for Intel Gaming. I've gone to 3 different events, both as a content creator and as an MC. Intel Gaming, I was at LA working with V1. I was at PAX East recently. I'm going to CECC in Atlanta soon as a desk analyst. And when you are a freelance commentator, the decision to do a job comes down to 2 things. One, availability. If I have the ability to make it happen and can prepare for it in a way that is professional and provide a good showing while I'm there. And the second thing is it financially smart to do so? Because sometimes you do get offers that it just isn't worth your time, because I do content creation and stream and stuff like that when I'm not sick. That stuff provides an opportunity cost, and I have to determine if it is worth allocating time into this event versus doing otherwise. And that's pretty much what it comes down to. I have no animosity. I still communicate with the people at Psyonix. I talk to them on a pretty regular basis, and there's no complication. You guys obviously know I still love Rocket League. So if Psyonix was approached as the RL Esports team and say, hey, we want you to do something at the RL Esports Major. Are you interested? We would have to sit down and have that conversation of, well, what does it entail? What is the cost? What is the expectation that is being provided? And if that then logically makes sense, then yeah, of course, it would definitely be something. But it depends on what the factors are. Based upon your question, if they're like, hey, we want you to be a commentator at the major, assuming price was right, yeah, definitely. I still love the guys over there. I still working with the team and all that kind of stuff. Love all the commentary team and interact with those guys still on a pretty regular basis. And it'd be awesome to do that, not only as kind of like a welcome home kind of mentality, but more so just being able to go back and do the thing that I did for 8 seasons. So yeah, it'd be cool, but again, it's not something that I'm holding out for. It's not something that I expect is going to happen anytime. But if it did, yeah, I think it'd be really cool. Next one comes from Brandon that says, do you think that the changes of Envy with Allushin moving to a starting position will open up the possibility of Turbo becoming a coach? He's one of the smartest players in the game. I feel like he could have some good insight from a coaching standpoint. So this is kind of a tough question to answer because I personally don't know how Turbo would be as a coach. Turbo's a pretty goofy guy, and I don't know when the going gets tough if he's going to have this skill set, and it's something that he could definitely learn. This is just me being not knowledgeable on the situation. I don't know if Turbo has the skill set to become a coach because despite being very good on the field, despite having good mentality, the skill set of what goes into being a coach is completely different. And there is a lot of former players that, although very knowledgeable at the game, struggle to obtain that skill set, and it takes time. I've talked pretty extensively with this with Chrome, because Chrome is one of the coaches I respect the most. And he also would admit, and this is why I feel comfortable saying it, would say at the very beginning, as a coach, he didn't know what the hell he was doing. And why would he? If he's never coached or managed a team or hasn't developed those skill sets or going to school set for sports psychology or any of that kind of stuff, being a coach is an entirely different skill set than being a pro who's very intellectually high, has a really high IQ in game. Now, while I do credit Turbo to having a very good mentality and understanding how to adapt mid-game very well, do I think he would make a good coach personally? I don't. I don't know if personality-wise, Turbo is the guy that when going gets tough, I need to be the one to be serious, re-encourage the guys, be the guy to diffuse situations, like if there's interpersonal communication issues or if there's stuff like that. I don't know if Turbo knows how to look at those situations, react, and diffuse that situation in a professional environment. I don't know many who are trained that way right now. And I could be completely wrong. Maybe Turbo is the guy that because he is goofy and stuff has a really good way to fix those issues. But I don't see it personally. I just don't. From what I've interacted with Turbo, it doesn't feel like his personality is suited to do it. And maybe he decides that he does want to transition into that. And I wish him nothing but the best if he does. But so far, from what I've seen from Envy as well as Ghost, has been interesting. I still have some reservations. I'll talk about this more in my breakdown tomorrow about the recap for the first regional, as there's been some very haste comments about how results have been, and I think people are very quick to jump the gun about some of the things that are happening right now, and I'll explain more about that in detail. But I think Allushin joining them so far has been pretty solid. I think he had some stability, and he's definitely been the difference maker in some of their wins, which is awesome to see. The mechanical side of things has definitely helped, and his surefire defense. It seems like the ability to get some passes developed and stuff from Envy has been there. And is that because possibly Turbo is helping on the back end? I don't know. I honestly don't have an insight. I haven't reached out to their manager that I know pretty well, in Ian, to ask those things, and I don't plan on it. But I do think that not always is the on-field skills translated to the off-field stuff in a coach. A coach skill set is a very different thing. So for some players like Chrome, it took them a couple seasons to kind of figure how that is and how that works. And as you've seen now, works out very, very well, as he's doing a phenomenal job with Space Station, and he did with NRG. But it is a different skill set, and it is something that has to be learned. And I personally just don't see it. I think Turbo is more so focused as a competitor, and I don't want to speak on his behalf because I just don't know. But I personally wouldn't see Turbo as a coach. I would see him either competing or as a content creator, because I still think, as one of the goofier dudes out there, I think his content can be very exciting if he decides to put his efforts into it. But as of right now, I see Turbo still being a competitor more than anything. That may be also me being a little reserved on the transition into this new phase, but I personally don't see it. Next question comes from Jay. It says, talking about how families could become Cloud9 or Energy or G2 families, how does that compare with traditional sports where it's based on the area you live? Usually the families follow the teams in their area. Yeah, it is a generalization. Case in point, born and raised in Green Bay, we grew up as a Green Bay Packers fan, and that was the way the family was. But I can tell you that usually there is the easy connotation that it is based upon where you live, but it's actually based upon what is taught to you when you are younger. Based upon what your parents like gets pushed down to you, and then you either become a fan or not. I also know plenty of people who live in areas with regional based teams and they root for someone completely different. It depends on what age they get into it, depends on how they're influenced when they're younger, a lot of that. And I think that's something exciting is while by default, usually it is a regional based team because not all esports teams are region based. It gives a lot of freedom and it leans heavily into that conversation where I'm talking about the influence of what you have followed along with then being pushed down to your kin or whatever may happen. I mean, you're talking 2-3 generations from now when esports is along twice its history of existence. And in traditional sports, I think primarily, like you say, it is based upon the region where you grow up because there is so many sports teams based upon regions. But esports doesn't always follow that. Yes, we have franchise teams that are region based in certain esports, but for the most part, it is not. And it's tough to explain or articulate that because it's something we haven't seen before. Who knows what it's going to look like in 100 years from now if esports is still doing its thing? Who knows what esports is going to look like 100 years from now? But I think the thing that excites me is that growing up, you may see, because esports wasn't a thing when I was a kid, you couldn't go and get scholarships and play. You couldn't take classes and get credits for it. But you're talking in the future, when I have kids, if I decide to have kids or my kids have kids or whatever, and I become a grandpa, what the ecosystem is going to look like and what kind of fan bases are derived from them. It's a really hard thing to contextualize and try to think that far ahead in the future, knowing how much like things even like phones have grown and expanded and how much power you have in the pocket in the past 15 years. I mean, growing up, I had a Nokia brick phone with a massive antenna, and that then became the Razr flip phone that everybody loved. And then we could send, like, text messaging wasn't a thing when I was a kid. And I'm aging myself a little bit here, but to try and contextualize something that is also a niche in esports and the entertainment side and what that's going to evolve into is very tough, but it's also very exciting. Last but not least, because this is an easy question, comes from Thomas. He says, how are they seeding the spring format? Is it accumulative points again? I put out a video a couple days ago called Everything You Need to Know About the Spring Split Format. Highly recommend going and checking that out. It came out about 10 days ago, 9-10 days ago, and it literally tells you everything you need to know about spring, how the seeding and stuff is broke down. There is a rule in the rule set, to answer your question quickly, that talks about how seeding is done now. They first find their main event teams, and then they find the teams that come in through the closed qualifier. Main event teams are based upon your overall RLCS points. Closed qualifiers, they're teams that are 9 through 16, and then they play teams from the open qualifier. Whichever 8 make it out of that, then gives us our main event top 16, and then they reseed them based upon 3 qualifications. Your 3 most recent events, including majors. So in this case, the winter major, the regional 3 of the winter, and regional 2 of the winter event. And then if they're still tied after that, then they go back to overall RLCS points because they want to make sure that if you're not performing the best recently, are you at least performing the best long term? And then after that, they then go to the most recent event, which would be the closed qualifiers in that circumstance. So there's tiebreakers that they follow along. I explain all this in detail with visuals in that video. So if you need to go look at that, it's called Everything You Need to Know About the RLCS 2021-2022 Spring Split, and it details it pretty well for you. If you have any additional questions, let me know in the comments down below. That's gonna do it for today's Q&A video. Again, not trying to stress the voice too much, just trying to rest up and make sure I'm good to go for the event in Atlanta this next week. But still going to be doing a Q&A video and all that kind of stuff next week. Still got to have a lot of stuff to prep, but you can expect tomorrow we'll be doing a recap video, trying to answer some of the questions that a lot of people have been wondering about, as well as some of these knee-jerk reactions that I'm seeing about teams. Stuff like Energy obviously getting eliminated early. They are trying to adjust to a new playstyle that does take some time to develop. You've got teams with a brand new roster iteration, which you are seeing them beat up on teams that are in the, 9 to 24 range, which you want to take with a grain of salt because so far they have struggled significantly against the teams that are in the top 5 or the top 4. So there is certain things that I think we can kind of put an asterisk on because, again, I need to see results over long term that I'll try to explain in tomorrow's video. But overall, some depth showing in North America. We'll be talking about that in tomorrow's video, as well as closed qualifier breakdowns on Tuesday for Europe as we get into their first regional this next week as well. But that's going to do it for today's video. Appreciate y'all coming and taking the time. Thanks for putting up with me while I'm sick. Normally, I stream through all of this. Normally, I still do all my stuff as normal, but This event coming up is something that I cannot miss. So I have to be very, very reserved on how much energy I'm exerting. I'm literally spending all my time on my couch, sleeping, watching RLCS, and then like having medicine. Like that's all I'm doing right now, and it really sucks. I'm bored out of my mind. So being able to do these videos for you guys at like 15-20 minutes a piece is keeping me sane. So I do appreciate it. Questions for next week and stuff, let me know in the comments down below, like the ones that you want to see answered at the top. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.